The following is a conversation with Harry Grafton. Harry Grafton is an auctioneer, a self-employed entrepreneur, and one of the most important and influential characters in the story of my life. I've worked with Harry since I was a teenager, and he's one of the reasons why I decided to become an auctioneer. He has taught me many things, and he continues to teach me things, and for this I am truly grateful. I would also like to say that this is what I hope is the first of many conversations I'd like to have with Harry, other auctioneers, and other people in the business. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Harry Grafton. All right, so Harry, one of the reasons why I figured we needed to have this conversation, you and I already kind of talked about this, is because, well, first of all, anyone who really knows you or knows anything about you knows at least one of two things, if not both things. One, they know that you're the guy with the really big yard sale, and two, they know that you are an auctioneer. Okay, but one thing that they may not know is that you have this enormous steel building that you've been building and I've been helping you build for a pretty long time now. And the goal has always been for it to be your auction house. And so we have just officially 1 week ago, 1 week and 1 day from today, you finally had your first auction there. Maybe it wasn't ideal, maybe it wasn't what you expected, but it happened. And I thought we did pretty much the best we could with it. And I just wanted to ask you, now that you've had your first auction, how do you feel about it?
Well, I'll tell you what, having your first auction, you're always apprehensive. We do auctions for business, and we're always on the selling your stuff, to someone else. And so I've never been on the side where I'm selling my own stuff to the general public as we usually do. And I tell you what, it's really, really good feeling because you can clear out a lot of stuff that you've been collecting or picking up, and now you've got space. I mean, my God, it was getting so crowded in that building, and now I've got space. Maybe I can get back to construction on the supposed auction house, and it might become a reality here within the next not too close in the future. I hate to give timelines because you keep getting sidetracked. But
well, I mean, I just tossed my phone out of the camera because I don't need it on me right now. But I mean, it is a reality now because you had one. You had one, and I'm actually, again, I know that, and I'm the same way. I know that sometimes you work on a project, whatever it might be, and you want it to be perfect before you reveal it to the general public. You know what I mean? And like, I know that was one of the things that maybe you had in your mind. Like I'm just not quite ready to have an auction here yet. And space was a factor. Space was a factor because you're cramming that building. What's the dimensions on that building again? I can't remember.
It's 48 by 108, so it's just roughly a 5,000 square foot building. A nice flat concrete floor and everything. But I tell you what, you can put a lot of stuff in that building, and you can pile pretty high, and it collects real quick. But now that I got space, like I say, maybe we can finish up the walls on it, get it ready to go. As long as it don't dump too much more stuff in it. Again,
and that's the thing, and that was the idea of that auction that we just had. The idea was inventory reduction. We need to make space in here because you had too much space. Because a lot of the stuff you sold, I know you've been holding it back for a couple years now. Even some of the stuff, like you've been holding it back, stuff that you definitely, because you do have the big yard sale, and some of the stuff that you had really just you thought was a step above a yard sale item, and you think that this is something that you should sell at auction because in theory, it's not always the case. In theory, an auction is where you're going to get your highest price for something. It's not always the case, especially whenever you have one like yours where we had a lot of stuff, or even the one we had yesterday, we had a lot of stuff. Sometimes the goal is just to get it out of there. Sometimes the goal is just to get it out of there.
Yeah, in reality, you're absolutely right. A good auction will have 500, 600 items. That we're selling, or lots, as they're called in the auction industry, lots. And my auction had I believe, I have to check it again, close to 1,500 lots, which is about 3 times more than the usual auction should have. And, of course, the more lots you have, unless you have an enormous crowd, you're going to get less because after a while, people run out of two things. They run out of space to haul it, and they run out of money to buy it. So the more lots you have, usually the less you're going to get for it towards the end of the auction. But if you want just to get rid of it, auction's the way to go.
And you talked about like yesterday. Yesterday, that was absolutely the case. That God bless our customers yesterday, because we got everything that we could out of them, and they got everything that they could out of us within reason. Meaning they stuck with us all day. They bought what they could afford, and they bought what they could fit in their trucks or their cars or whatever. But we had so much stuff yesterday. The fact that anyone stuck with us till the end of the day yesterday was an absolute miracle, and I can't believe we pretty much got rid of all of it yesterday. There were some no sales. There's always no sales. Usually, especially if it's a household item or a household auction, where it's box lots, things like that. But a lot of times, like I was saying, the goal is to just get rid of it a lot of times, because whenever we do our household auctions, people might sometimes get a distorted view about what an auction is, where like they might think of like something like eBay, which is an auction platform, or they might think of it something like the Barrett-Jackson automotive auction. Most people, other than like the people that are around here, because I think it's more common, auctions are a little bit more common around here, but like as you get away from areas that have auctions, they don't really understand what an auction is or how it works. They may have only seen them on TV or something like that. They might think, a lot of people think that it's just something like Sotheby's or something, right? But us, what we're doing is, yes, we are always trying to get the most amount of money for an item. But really, a lot of the times, the reality of it is that we are there to clean out a house. We do a lot of estate auctions, and what that means is that the owner is no longer living, and sometimes it's the family members who are in charge of cleaning out the house, and a lot of times they have no use for the stuff that's in there, and they don't really care what you get for it. They're like, hey, I just need this house cleared out so I can sell it. And other times it's And other times there might not be any living family members, and it's a lawyer that's in charge of it. And that is definitely the goal. Like, hey, I don't care what you get for this stuff. Just get it out of here. But again, in theory, you're going to get your best price for something at an auction, because it creates competition, right? You want it, I want it. What is my top dollar that I'm willing to go on it? What's your top dollar that you're willing to go on it? And eventually, one person's going home with it.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you what, auction is the best way to sell anything, because I see so many things. I do visit other yard sales. I have my own big yard sales twice a year, and I do quite well with it, But I base my prices based on auction sales. I see what a refrigerator's selling for and the condition it's in, collectibles of any type nature. I'm not saying I'm a real expert at everything, but you know what it sells for and what people are willing to pay. Now, at auction, if 2 or 3 people want it, you might get more than what it usually sells for. But if there's only one person there that wants it, you're going to get a cheaper price. And that's one thing I do say about auctions. If you're looking to buy something, whether it be a garden tractor, a lawnmower, a sword, guns, whatever, you can buy anything at auction at the price that you're willing to pay if you're willing to wait long enough. Because what sells high, $100, $200 at this auction, at one auction, the next auction 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road might bring 75. It depends on who's at the auction and who wants what.
It really is. It really is. It really depends on a lot of things. Now, we should also be clear. I know that pretty much anyone who's going to be listening to this knows this about us, but we should be clear that we, meaning you and I and Canes, the company that we work for, we do only live auctions. We're hoping to change that and get into the online auction game soon, but that's it definitely is moving towards more of an online auction age, where that, like, you have to have auctions online. You really do have to have them online. Now, whenever I say online auction, really what that does mean, at least these days right now, is that you're looking at more like an eBay type platform where you take a picture of something, you put it up, and then people are bidding with just a click, right? The way that you and I do auctions, it is live, in person, on location, meaning usually it's pretty much always at the customer's or the seller's house. Now, what you are attempting to do with your building is to turn it into an auction house, which is still a live auction, but the way that that works is the people bring their things to you and you sell it at your location, which is very different than what we did yesterday, where we went to a person's house. We organized it, divided it up, how we figured it needed to be sold, and we sold it at that person's house. And that's how we pretty much do all of our. That is how we do all of our auctions.
All on site. On site locations is what we usually do. We do rent halls and so forth every once in a while. Depending on if you live back in this narrow street that nobody but 5 cars and everything's filled up for parking. That's not such a good thing for an auction. So sometimes you do have to change location to accommodate parking so that people can come and bid on what we're selling. And that's one thing about it, and you were mentioning about the online or live auction. We also we don't at the moment, but simulcast where we do live bidding, and there's people manning the computers to do online bids too at the same time, and of course that's a different platform.
That's a whole nother animal, and that is the method that I would like to get into. I mean, obviously, we need to get into the online, just click bid type auctioning because there's money to be made there, and that's another way that you can get the most out of an item. And a lot of times, if we do it yesterday. We had a live auction, or even your auction. It was a live auction, but unfortunately, both of those auctions, it rained.
Oh yeah,
that's a factor. That's a factor, man. And you can't control that, especially if you're booking an auction that is like we book it today, but it's not going to be for another month or two. You have no idea what the weather's going to be like, and you can only just plan accordingly the best that you can. But as far as a live auction. There are a lot of factors that can really affect how much money you're going to get for something. Weather being one of them. Competing auctions. There's always more than one auction going on in a day. I know we had that big Virtue auction with the cars. Oh, yeah. And remember, I thought we did really well with that auction, but with one thing that happened that no one even thought about. We just happened to book it on the same day as the big Canton, right? It was Canton, right? The big Canton car show, and now we're selling these old cars. We had an old Ford, we had an old Buick. Give me some of the years on that. I don't remember.
We had a no, I can't even.
I know.
Remember.
There was nothing after the 40s.
Like a 39 Buick or 31 Buick. We had a Chevy. We had a Model A. Several old cars, some old engines and parts. We did well on them. We got what I feel they were worth for the condition that they were in. But there's people who would come to us and they said, "Oh, that's the auto show weekend," but still they made it to the auction because they was wanting what we had.
Right.
And so we did have a good competitive bidding on that. Did it sell too cheap? Some people may think so, but they didn't put their hands up to buy them. So they sold for what they was worth at the time that they were sold.
Right, and that could have been that was a perfect situation where someone is like, "Oh man, I can't be there that day. Do you guys have an online option?" No, man, we don't. If you want this, you better be here. And the way that I would like to start moving on in the future with our online system, if we ever even get that going, you know what I mean? We're always working on it, but we're also always working on 100 different things. But I would really like to get to an actual live broadcast auction where, because I'm gonna be honest with you, man, I really enjoy being an auctioneer, but I enjoy the live aspect of it. I enjoy the bid calling. I enjoy being there with the crowd. That's why I like it. I don't have much of an interest in the online click type bidding because that just doesn't seem fun to me. That just seems like some kind of job it's a different kind of job is what it is, and it doesn't excite me. The live auctioning is what excites me, and I really want to be able to move forward with that in an online capacity and still be able to do the bid calling and interact with people.
Yeah. Well, what I like auctions. I used to go to lots of auctions before I become an auctioneer, because I like buying at auctions and so forth. And then so it's always been a grabber for me, auctions, no matter what kind. However, now that I am an auctioneer, and any profession, whether you're an auctioneer, a fireman, a lawyer, anything, if you're going to be in the business, be a professional. And that's one thing that I like to take pride in, that we're professionals and we're out there in front of people. We're showing people how to do it, what we do, and there again, like I say, acting professional. If you're selling only online, people don't know you from Jack. As far as that goes, you could be some of the. I've seen a lot of sellers online. You buy something, it's not as represented. You pay for it. Maybe you never get it. I mean, there's a lot of scamming going on out there. When you're live, online, in front of people, they see you. You're not hiding from anybody. And I feel that you get a better deal because you looked at what you're buying. You can see what kind of condition it's in. And it's just a much, much better system. And like I say, not all people are professionals.
Well, of course, in any line of work, you're always going to find shady customers, and I do like to think that we are the opposite of that. I like to think that we represent ourselves and Canes and just the auction profession in the best that we can. Obviously, we're not perfect, but I do think that you and I and everyone else that works for us, whether we make mistakes or not, we're always trying to do the best job that we can, because that's what you're supposed to do with no matter what you're doing, and especially when you are working for another person.
Oh yes. When you're selling someone else's stuff, it's always important to represent it and do the best job you can for that person. Because if you were selling my stuff, which you did a while ago, last week,
Right.
Which is fine, and we got as much as we could. Yeah, some things sold much lower than I wish they would have. But it's gone. That's okay. But of course, the things that sold much higher than I expected, it makes up. It always comes out in the wash, the way it is. Something sells too high, something sells too low, but it all averages out. And you can't ask for a better situation than that. Somebody goes home with a deal, somebody doesn't.
I like what you said about online auctions are cool and everything, and it's a great way to buy things, it's a great way to sell things, it's a great way to get good money. But as far as if I was thinking about myself and I wanted to buy something, say I wanted to buy a car, or say I wanted to buy a gun, some sort of high dollar, more maybe sophisticated type item, or a tool of some kind, a power tool of some kind. If I'm going to be paying what I think it's worth, I need to put my hands on that thing. I need to put my eyes on that thing. I'm not if I was going to buy a car, yeah, I would be okay with maybe buying a car online, but I'm not going to pay what I think it's worth, because I'm I think that car should be worth this much, but I'm not there, so I can't really give every dollar that I can. Now, if I'm there looking at it, touching it, I can fire it up, hear what's wrong with it, things like that, then yeah, you're gonna get every dollar that I feel that car deserves, or at least that I can afford to give on that thing. Online, you're not. There's something can be lost in the translation, and you might not get as much as you think that you should for it.
Yeah, it's like anything that you're taking a picture of. If you're selling it online, which is good, and if you got 3, 4, 5 pictures, you're showing all 4 sides of an object, that's fine. But quite often you get a picture, the best side only. I mean, hey, when you take a picture of yourself, you don't want your ugly side. You want to put your pretty side up. And that's what a lot of pictures are on, online. Of course, we advertise online, Auction Zip and Go To Auctions and several other platforms, our own website. And you can't put millions of pictures on it, but as many pictures as we can. Sometimes though, whenever we go to take pictures of an auction that we're going to book, months from now, we take pictures, but because it's stacked, it's packed, stuff's piled on top of it, we take the best picture of it we can. We try to update it as we setting it up, so always check back for updates, on our website at least. And so if you can be there, you can see it, you can touch it, you know the condition that it's in.
And one thing I wanted to ask you today, and we'll just kind of move on to this right now. A lot of people I'm sure don't know, and even I don't really know because we haven't talked about it a lot. You and I mean, people know this. You and I have been working together a very, very long time at this point. You know, I mean, it's probably close to like, 15 years or even more.
Probably, yes.
And but you, the first time I ever worked an auction, and I guess I'll just give a quick rundown of myself. The first time I ever worked an auction, I was 16 years old. I was in high school with Taylor Kane. Taylor Kane, who's you got your Kane hat on.
Yeah.
He's the grandson of Gary Kane, who is unfortunately no longer with us. The father of Brad Kane, who is now the owner of the company, and then Taylor Kane eventually will own the company himself. But at this time, Gary was still alive. Brad was an auctioneer. You were an auctioneer, and Taylor just needed a young person who was able to lift boxes and lift furniture and things like that. And that was where we got our boy. I'll tell you what. Let's not go too far off into a tangent, but boy, wasn't it great whenever Taylor and I were teenagers and we had teenage friends that we could hire.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Man.
I tell you what, the auction. I mean, sometimes we get stressed because we got a big auction to set up and we've got very little helpers. There's lots of people that want to work the auctions, but like so many in this age, everybody wants a job, but nobody wants to do the work. And now, not that packing stuff in a box and carrying it to a table requires a lot of skill, but you have to have the right things in the box. You want related items together. You don't want to sell a table saw and then put the guide or something or the saw blades for it in another box someplace. I mean, we try to keep everything together. So, but it doesn't take I hate to say it, but the old cliche, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, but somebody that has a desire, who likes old stuff, who likes rummaging through stuff to find all the bargains and stuff that we can present to get our sellers the most money for their items. I mean, and we do like to have people who are diligent, shows up for work, and we're always looking for good people. Right now, there's a little bit of a slack. A lot of our guys are. I'm not saying I'm old, but I'm not a young guy anymore either. But such as yourself, So it is always nice whenever you got younger people that's got friends that can chip in. Maybe 2-3 days this week. Maybe not for another month. Just occasional help, and so it's always good to have people available.
It is, and that is part of the issue of why we. And I'll get back to what we were talking about in a minute, but it is part of the issue of why we just have a hard time finding some people to work for us because, unfortunately, auction not necessarily a full-time gig. I mean, even you and I, we have other jobs. I'm a teacher. You have your yard sale. You also deal in real estate a little bit. I deal in real estate a little bit. Neither one of us are all that
making our living
successful.
at it.
Yeah, right. But anyway, so back to what I was getting at, and then I'm going to ask you the question I wanted to ask you. So, I got into the auction game because I had a friend who needed somebody who could just do some manual labor. That was basically the size of it. And then it does pay decent, especially if you're a young kid. And so I was able to do it. And it's also not really a firm schedule. Like I tell you, like, hey, I can help you Monday and Tuesday, but then I won't be able to be back until Friday or Saturday or whatever. But so I worked just labor, just worked labor for the auctions through high school, through college, and then whenever I was about 24, 25, I remember you gave me I was called a free ticket to auction school. You purchased at a charity auction at the Ohio Auction School, which is where I got my auctioneers, my training, if you want to call it that.
Because to be an auctioneer in the state of Ohio, you have to meet certain criteria. You got to have 80 hours of classroom education, and at that you have to learn the laws that govern the sale of auction sales and so forth in the state of Ohio. There's laws to follow. There's things you are allowed to sell, things that you are not allowed to sell, procedures to sell certain items. I mean, and then of course they teach you bid calling too, 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, 15, and how to roll with it. And, mostly it's a thing, you can't stop to think of what the next number is. You gotta know what the next number is, and of course you change it up all the time, because when you're selling something, you're asking 20, give me $20 there to go, and somebody gives you the half sign. Okay, I got 5, 7.5. So you always got to be able to roll. Numbers got to be good. So they teach you things like this. And then we're governed by the Department of Ag in the state of Ohio, and you have to take a test after you've had your classroom. Then you got to do an apprenticeship, which they are presently working on changing the apprenticeship program. And then you have to take a test to become an apprentice, and then you have to take a test to become an auctioneer after you've done your apprenticeship program. But there again, the apprenticeship is changing somewhat. They are working on it. We have a great auction program in the state of Ohio, and there's like 3,500 auctioneers in the state of Ohio. So there's quite a few of us, and most of them are good professional people. So like I say, we are licensed, we are insured in the state of Ohio. So if you say an auctioneer from Ohio, we're on it. But of course, we are licensed in Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania.
I'm not licensed in Pennsylvania. I'm not licensed in Pennsylvania. Didn't want to falsely represent myself. I am licensed in Ohio and West Virginia, though. You're licensed in Pennsylvania, though.
Correct.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And each state has similar laws and so forth, but some do variate to a point. So, such as gun sales, we have to be very careful on gun sales, make sure we're following all the local ordinances and so forth. And so it's not just a get up and call for money. It's a lot of pre-work to it. So,
Yeah, and people have asked me that. I'm sure they ask you that too. So do you have to go to school? Well, first of all, let me just ask you this. Whenever you tell someone you're an auctioneer, what is the first question they usually ask you?
Well, there's two questions that are kind of even up. Oh, can you call something? Can you do that sound? Can you make
talk
that
real
fast
fast?
talk? Yeah, depends on how they say it. And sometimes I hate to. I says my standard answer is pretty much, if I'm auctioning, I'm calling for bids. Somebody's going to give me some money here.
Right. Yeah, man. I'm not working for free.
Then I started, give me 25, now 30, now 35. You just, fall into it, which is fine. And the second thing is, do you have to go to school?
Yep, they ask me. That is always that. You're right. That is always the two questions they ask you. Oh, so you can talk real fast? Yeah, I can. And then they're like, do you have to go to school for that? Yeah. Do they teach you how to talk real fast at that school? Actually, yeah, they do. And then they're like, oh man, I could never do that. And you try to explain to them like, yes, you could. Anybody could do it. Seriously. There's obviously, like anything, there's people who are better at it than others. But like really, whenever you go to school and you break it down, it's really not a very difficult thing to learn. You just got you just got to practice it. Yeah. But I'm sorry. So anyway, but real quick, back to what I was saying. Whenever I was about 25, you gave me my ticket to auction school. Which again, thank you again so much. I've thanked you as much as I can, but I can't thank you enough for it, man. Because
that's okay. It was a write-off for me.
And so I went to the Ohio Auction School. It's in Columbus. Mike Brandley runs that. And actually, you were talking about how there's a lot of auction. I mean, 3,500 sounds like a lot, but there's really not a lot of auctioneers in the world, right? And especially once you leave this area, especially when you go out west for some reason, like auctions it's almost like they don't even know what you're talking about. Like they just don't really do them as you get out of this area. This area is very big for auctions. And in fact, there's there's a lot of states that don't require you to have a license to be an auctioneer. And I can't remember if Michigan is one of them, but I do know that when I was at the Ohio Auction School, there were some people who were there from other states that did not require a licensure, but they wanted to come to Ohio to get their license, just so they have a better credential that they can market themselves. Like, hey, hire me because I'm actually licensed. This guy doesn't even have a license, so I mean, it is a marketable thing for yourself.
Oh yeah. Most Western states, or quite a few of them. There again, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert because I really don't know which states 100% have to have license. I work in Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, tri-state area. Work close to home. You know your clientele better. You know your product better. I mean, we go to the OAA, the Ohio Auctioneers Association, and we meet people who travel all over the country, and some of them go out of country to auction in other countries. Of course, with this COVID stuff going on, they haven't been traveling as much. But it's something which is should be a requirement, I believe, to know the laws and to sell professionally, to become an auctioneer. And so, but like I say, not all licenses are required in all states, but those who are govern it quite well. And in most cases, you go to auction to buy something, you can get a good deal.
It is. I do think we have a pretty good just handle on auctioneering in the state of Ohio and West Virginia, things like that. I mean, you and I have to do continuing education. We're always, we always have to go to school. I know it stinks that we got to do that all the time, but we do have to do it, and I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just annoying that you have to do it. But so anyway, back to my life story here. Around the age of 25 is whenever I went to the Ohio Auction School. It takes 2 weeks worth of school. It all is all it is, really. It's intensive, but it's not difficult really in any way. And then after that, I had to apprentice for a year under Gary Kane. And then after a year, I had to take my test at the Department of Agriculture in Columbus. And basically I never even. Obviously, when I was a kid, I was never like, man, I want to be an auctioneer. Like, it's never any aspiration that I had. I went to school to be a teacher only because I didn't really know what else to do with myself. But then, and I think I was already graduated from college, but I was kind of messing around being like a substitute teacher. I never really had any like full-time teaching jobs. I also coached a little bit for my old high school and things like that, but I just really didn't know what I wanted to do. But then I did the auction school thing, and when I came out of auction school, I really did have like a different view about how I wanted the future of my life to be. It really did change what I wanted to do, and I really do want to keep pursuing this auction path as much as I can. Now, again, you and I aren't making any fortunes on being an auctioneer. I actually did just take a full-time teaching job because I needed to. I mean, I needed the money, and sometimes you take a job because you need money. It's never really the best reason to take a job, but it is why I took a job. But, so with all that said, I don't want to spend too much time on me. I wanted to ask you to just kind of give, because I don't know, honestly. I wanted you to kind of give the rundown of how you got into the business.
Well, I started many years ago. I went to a lot of auctions. I checked the Farm and Dairy, which is the Bible in this area as far as auctions. You check the Farm and Dairy back in the time. Now it's more online than Farm and Dairy as much. But, I'd go to auctions, whether it be here, whether it be Kiko's or in Carrollton. I just went to auctions to buy stuff. I thought I could get a deal. Some things I needed, some things I just wanted. But anyhow, so I went to a lot of auctions, went to a lot of cane auctions, and they were shorthanded, such as we are now. And I just started helping them out. They says, "Hey, could you help us out today?" So I started bringing stuff to the table. I'm thinking, now what am I doing here? But it worked out. Hey, can you work next week for us? Sure, I can take a couple of days and give you. So I started doing that. So I started working the auctions. Being a roadie. Bringing stuff up and sorting and selling and taking them out to the people, and then I'm thinking, this isn't too bad of a gig, and it's a lot of fun, because every auction we set up, if you like treasure hunts, every auction we set up, you're digging through other people's stuff. I don't mean that in any offensive way, but you're digging through other people's stuff. Even my own self up here, whenever we were setting up for my auction, which we had a couple weeks ago, I'm digging through my stuff. Other guys are digging through my stuff, and I'm finding stuff I forgot I had. Oh, I remember that. But anyhow, so you're digging through. It's a treasure hunt. You're always looking for that. We find old license plates, or we find some old coins, or we find old bayonets, or sometimes a war memorabilia. Whether it be Nazi, U.S., Japanese. And those are good collector items, and you find something. Wow, look what I found. So it's good. So then I thought, I'm doing this. I'm making X amount of money at it, which is good, because it's, like you say, I like the job. It didn't make me a lot of money, but I was surviving with it. And so then I thought, well, why don't I become an auctioneer? And so I went to school, such as you, did the test, did my apprenticeship, become an auctioneer. And it's been sailing, not smoothly all the time, but just sailing right on down the stream there, it's worked out good. It's got me a lot of places, and got me a reputation. I hope it's a good one, and so it's just been like you say, if the job you're doing brings you joy and you love it and have a passion for it, that's what you should do. And this is quite enjoyable being an auctioneer. You meet a lot of people, whether it be on the selling side, the buying side, and it's just a lot of good times.
I agree. It is fun, man. It's fun. It's fun. The whole process of again, somebody here.
Yeah.
the whole process of and that's what you said, man. There's no other way to put it. Digging through people's things. That's what you're doing. You're digging through people's things. It's kind of like a treasure hunt.
Of course, now sometimes it's not just household, which is a lot of fun. I mean, we do commercial, we do business auctions. I mean, just anything. How do I say it? If you own it, we can sell it. As long as it's legal.
Of course. Of course.
There's a lot of good stuff to be had, a lot of fun to be had, and don't know what else to say.
So let me ask you just a couple more questions here, and I think we'll wrap this up because somebody did just show up, so we're probably gonna get just in case anybody wanted to know this. Harry usually can't go too long without somebody visiting. But oh no, I hope my camera didn't just die too. But so do you think there's a future in live auctions?
I absolutely do believe that there's a future in live auction. There always will be for those people who really want to buy and sell and see what they are buying, because online is good, but you got to have interaction, people to people interaction, and as long as I'm going, I know younger people like the online, they're more savvy. I'm technically challenged on quite a few different things, so I'm not as good as online stuff and so forth, but live auctions, as long as somebody's willing to buy and somebody's willing to sell, I'm willing to auction it.
What is your favorite thing to sell?
Oh, I tell you what, there's no favorites really. I mean, if anything, from pots and pans, which is, yesterday's auction pots and pans, they were all brand new Wolfgang. I mean, Rachel Ray's. I mean, anything that you could buy on QVC, we had at yesterday's auction. I like selling equipment. I mean, tractors and farm equipment and so forth. That is amazing, because I know the equipment pretty well. Some of the newer modern ones, is like everything else. You got old school and you got new school. But I tell you, equipment, I think I like selling best. Cars, of course, because usually cars and everything's one of a kind. You get a pot and pan, everybody has a pot and a pan. I'm just using that as a low end, but any unique items. I like selling collectibles, coins, guns. I mean, they command a lot of attention and a lot of people want them.
Last question. What's the most unusual thing you think you've ever sold?
Oh, that would be kind of hard to say. I've sold 6-foot bird cages. I've sold embalming tables. I mean, those are kind of weird on the outside. I mean, we've sold chairs. Mingo, one time we sold a chair for $3,500, which was a set of 12 out of like a fraternity organization. Just very unique. Many other unique items, but it's kind of hard to say. Old guns that, one of a kind, handmade guns, that just, it's kind of hard. There's been so many unique items that it's Hard to say, but those are just the first few that come to my mind.
All right, man. I think that's pretty much everything. I mean, obviously, you and I could talk for hours on this because we do all the time anyway, even when we're not recording it. But thanks again for letting me do this. Hopefully people enjoy the conversation that we just had. And again, thanks for letting me do this, man. Thanks for everything you've ever done for me. Thanks for the auctioneer license. Thanks for all the work you've given me. Things like that. So I mean, I would not be doing this right here if it wasn't for you, man. So again, thanks again.
Hey, well, you're most welcome. I'm glad to help anybody out. And as always, when you're doing a live presentation or whatever, don't miss an opportunity to advertise yourself. So contact Clint Chevalier or Harry Grafton, Kane Realty and Auctioneers, and we can set up an auction for you or direct you to our next auction.
Hopefully you enjoyed this conversation with Harry Grafton. Harry Grafton and I have had many conversations like the one we just had. We've just never recorded it. It's probably for the best that we didn't record all of those conversations, but I always enjoy talking to Harry about anything, not just auctions, because Harry is one of my best friends and he's been a role model to me for almost half my life. This is definitely not going to be the last time we do this, and hopefully in the future I can do a better job at getting all of the video and making sure that I represent Harry and anyone else I'm talking to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for sticking with me this long. If you made it this far, I really, really do appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Thank you.